Chapter 488 Class 8 Decomposition Canon. The final decision was for Bei Bei to take the leading role, while Xu Sanqi, Zhang Nanan, Xia Xiao, Ji Juiqin, Yi Guyi, and Nan Qikai would all participate. Of course, Hua Yuao would have a spot on the team if he could pass his test. However, nobody believed that he could actually do it. Bei Bei and 4 others from Shrek's 7 monsters were part of this operation, excluding Hua Yuao and Yi In addition to the sword fanatic, who was also a Su Sage, along with Yi Guyi and Nan Qikai, who were 2 soul emperors with special martial souls, their overall strength was unprecedentedly powerful. Of course, Bei Bei was very clear on the difference between having Hua Yuao around and going on without him. Simply put, even if they encountered a title Douluo, Hua Yuao would give them a chance to kill their opponent with these prodigies' prowess. Without Hua Yuao, the best they could do was protect themselves. But Ding Yan and Elder Song, who were 2 transcendent Douluo, would also participate in this expedition. Their chances were probably quite good. Bei Bei began to prepare intricately after he decided who was to participate in this expedition. He had to make sure that the Tang Sect's affairs were properly settled and arranged within the shortest possible time. At the same time, he had to make a trip to Shrek Academy's Soul Tool department so that he could request Shenliner and Chenjuojuo's support, and so that these 2 deans could help him temporarily look after the Tang Sect. To that end, the Tang Sect wouldn't run into any problems. Hua Yuao didn't have any energy to see how his eldest senior brother was arranging things. His thoughts were entirely occupied by how to forge a Class 8 Soul Tool. There was only one set of blueprints, and he didn't get to choose. Since he didn't get to choose, then he had to rely on his own effort. Fortunately, he had Hikato to help him, even though he and Hikato had conflicted with each other for a chance to participate in this expedition. They were brothers after all, and how could Hikato sit by and watch when his brother was in trouble? The brothers entered one of the well-equipped silent rooms within the Soul Tool hall. Hua Yuao realized to his surprise that the silent room's layout was very particular and exquisite. There was an extremely large platform for crafting Soul Tools in the middle, and this platform's surface was silver white, while there were all sorts of equipment and configurations around it. This seemed very similar from the one that he had used back in the Sun Moon Imperial Soul Engineering Academy, though this one was probably better. The reason was because there was some equipment and configurations that even he didn't know about. There were many metal racks and frames around the silent room. These racks weren't considered pleasing to the eye, but they were very practical, and that was because all sorts of rare metals were placed on these metal racks in all shapes and sizes. Typically, the more precious a rare metal was, the smaller the pieces on the racks would be. Forging Soul Tools would naturally become a lot more effective with a silent room such as this one. Hua Yuao couldn't be bothered with admiring the Soul Tool hall's current development as he walked briskly before the table and laid out the blueprints that Sun Zwen had given him. Then, he started to study them closely. This was the first time that he had seen such detailed and comprehensive blueprints of a Class 8 Soul Tool, but this wasn't the first time that Hikato had seen such blueprints. Hikato's expression changed a little as he saw them. He couldn't help but utter, "Teacher Sun is cruel enough. Little junior brother, do you know what these blueprints are for?" Hua Yuao was still looking at the rare metals that this Soul Tool required, but he hurriedly turned his attention towards the name on the blueprint's first page when he heard Hikato's words. Hua Yuao's expression also became extremely spectacular when he saw the name. Decomposition Canon. The Soul Tool's name was just 2 simple words, but Hua Yuao drew a cold breath. Of course he knew about decomposition cannons, and such Soul Tools appeared in various classes. However, decomposition cannons of the lowest class occurred as Class 6 Soul Tools. A decomposition cannon was a single target offensive Soul Tool, and its core principles included the element of space and making use of space's pyrolytic properties to create formidable destructive power. Decomposition cannons were one of the hardest types of Soul Tools to forge no matter which class they were in, while they were also considered one of the strongest single target offensive Soul Tools within their respective classes. That was the reason why Hikato remarked that Teacher Sun was cruel. He was, indeed. Even Sun Zwen himself would have to put in some effort if he were to forge a Class 8 decomposition cannon himself. Furthermore, Hua Yuao could vaguely remember that Sun Zwen had mentioned that Class 8 decomposition cannons were impractical and a waste of time. It had formidable attacking power, but forging it required too much effort, while the time and effort needed to forge such a cannon was enough to forge 3 other Class 8 Soul Tools. Even though these individual Soul Tools would have weaker attacking strengths, the 3 of them added together would still be stronger overall than a single decomposition cannon. Yet, Teacher Sun has chosen to use this decomposition cannon to stop me. Teacher Sun, oh, Teacher Sun, you are too cruel. Hua Yuao wanted to cry, but no tears would come. But what else could he do? There was nothing he could do against Teacher Sun's authority. Hua Yuao heaved a long sigh as he concentrated on studying those blueprints. Hua Yuao had to make sure he knew what rare metals these blueprints required before he could gather those resources. He couldn't do anything more without sufficient materials, or everything else wouldn't matter, and he wouldn't even a chance to attempt this feat. What else was there to talk about? Fortunately, Sun Zwen just wanted to see what Hua Yuao could do after slacking for so long. Therefore, there were no problems with resources even though he deliberately chose a difficult Class 8 Soul Tool to pin him down. Shrek Academy had been receiving support from the Douluo continent's 3 native empires in secret. They didn't have that many rare metals, but they could be considered well equipped. Even though their whole couldn't compare to the Sun Moon Empire's scale, the 3 empires' combined national strengths were sufficient to support all kinds of research and Soul Tool production. Hua Yuao used 1 hour to gather all the materials that he required with Hikato's help, and only then did he begin perusing the blueprints for forging this Soul Tool. His expression quickly changed after just 1 look. So complicated. This is just too complicated. Teacher Sun, you're asking for my life. Hua Yuao felt like he couldn't take it anymore after going through the blueprints for a little while. 24 pieces out of 30 were for designing formation arrays. Hua Yuao wouldn't complain if 24 formation arrays were needed, because that was just a quantitative problem. He wouldn't have any trouble with that with his speed at crafting Soul Tools. The problem was that these 24 pieces actually depicted just 3 formation arrays, which meant that every formation array had 8 pieces on average. And what did that mean? That meant every formation array was as complicated as one could get. Those weren't simple 2-dimensional pictures. They were all 3-dimensional. They even breached topics of 4-dimensional spatial features. For instance, the most important formation array hovered within the Soul Tool. This was the first time that Hua Yuao had even heard of a formation array being used this way, not to mention ever having seen one. Hua Yuao felt like he didn't know where to start. A Class 8 Soul Tool. It really is a Class 8 Soul Tool after all. Hua Yuao heaved a long sigh. Does heaven want to punish me? Hua Yuao began to scrutinize those blueprints after momentary sighs and laments. He was never one to admit defeat just like that, and he had a defiant personality that made him stronger the more suffering he took. Hua Yuao quickly immersed himself in his studies. He wasn't hasty to attempt to forge the Soul Tool, but he just studied and interpreted the blueprints intently. From Hua Yuao's perspective, forging wasn't too difficult. Forging a Class 8 Soul Tool shouldn't be too difficult with his current soul power. That was especially so because he had support from his formidable spiritual power. With his spiritual soul core, Hua Yuao was confident that his spiritual power wasn't inferior even compared to a Class 9 Soul Engineer. The crucial problem lay in understanding this Soul Tool's principles and its forging method before he could get any work started. Hikato was still watching from one side in the beginning, but he quickly realized that Hua Yuao had been completely absorbed into the blueprints. Hikato was also staring at these blueprints seriously from the side, and even though these blueprints were so complicated that he wanted to vomit blood, they were still invaluable treasures for soul engineers like them. Not every soul engineer could obtain blueprints of such top-tier Soul Tools, and that was especially so for the Douluo continent's 3 original empires. Top-tier Soul Tool blueprints were considered extremely rare. However, Hikato felt like he couldn't keep going anymore after observing for a short while. The Class 8 decomposition cannon's blueprints were absolutely the most complicated ones amongst the various blueprints of Class 8 Soul Tools that he had seen. Furthermore, they weren't just complicated. Hikato felt like his head was spinning after just looking at those 3-dimensional blueprints for a short while. Hikato knew that he was lacking in spiritual power. Even though he was already working very hard, he knew that his spiritual power could only catch up after his soul power passed rank 85 for him to consider these blueprints. He stole a glance at Hua Yuao and discovered that Hua Yuao was very seriously studying them, but he didn't seem like he was completely lost. Hikato couldn't help but feel a tinge of admiration and envy. Little junior brother's spiritual power is truly admirable. Soul engineers were more reliant on spiritual power in some sense compared to soul masters, and that was more the case as soul engineers became stronger. Time continued to pass. Hikato accompanied Hua Yuao for another 2 hours inside the silent room before he left quietly, as he knew that he could no longer help him in here. He didn't know how much time would pass before Hua Yuao would awaken from his contemplation. Hikato left quietly and informed the Tang Sect's other members that nobody was to disturb Hua Yuao. One day passed in the blink of an eye, and Hua Yuao had been inside the silent room from the beginning to the end. Hikato came to visit him twice discreetly, and Sun Zwen even came to see Hua Yuao once. However, Hua Yuao didn't speak, and neither did he move as he stared at those blueprints, like his entire being was completely immersed within them. He sighed exasperatedly, while Sun Wen was feeling happy inside. Of course, he knew how difficult it was to forge a Class 8 decomposition cannon. This was meant to deliberately stump Huo Yuao. After all, Sun Wen was clear that becoming a Class 9 soul engineer was his limit with his talents. That wasn't because his abilities at research weren't enough, but because he didn't have enough soul power. He couldn't possibly become a transcendent Douluo in the future, and if he couldn't become a transcendent Douluo, then he wouldn't have a chance to try to become a Class 10 soul engineer in the future. Therefore, even though he had become a Class 9 soul engineer, his understanding about all that was far deeper than before. That was the reason why he came to realize how important Huo Yuao was as a prodigy, and that only Huo Yuao could carry on his legacy and work towards breaking through and becoming a Class 10 soul engineer. Therefore, Sun Wen gave some deep thought about this, and decided that he had to find some way to convince Huo Yuao no matter what, so that he would probably learn about forging soul tools from him. Under such circumstances, he needed Huo Yuao to remain. Otherwise, wouldn't his intentions just be empty thoughts? Sun Wen wouldn't be surprised if Huo Yuao couldn't complete the decomposition cannon, but he didn't wish to see Huo Yuao not have any solutions at all. From what he could see, if Huo Yuao could at least immerse himself within those blueprints, then he definitely would gain some understanding of them. That was enough for him. Huo Yuao was a youngster who had just become a Class 7 soul engineer. What else could Sun Wen expect from him? If Huo Yuao could understand a Class 8 decomposition cannon, which had a complexity that came close to a Class 9 soul tool, as long as Sun Wen could guide him, and in addition to his continuously improving cultivation, Huo Yuao wouldn't need more than 1 or 2 years before he could become a Class 8 soul engineer. Sun Wen was very clear about Huo Yuao's talents. That fellow was just too talented. Not only was he intelligent, but he also had formidable spiritual power supporting him, so he had a much easier time forging soul tools than other soul engineers. On the second day, Huo Yuao still hadn't moved or spoken, neither had he eaten or had anything to drink. He was starting to get worried, and he conveyed what he saw to Bei Bei. Bei Bei personally spoke with Sun Wen, and he wanted to interrupt Huo Yuao so that he could stop, but Sun Wen stopped him. What? Stop? What kind of joke is this? Do you know how difficult it is for a soul engineer to be so immersed in his own studies? He can only truly experience the beauty of soul tools if he is frequently immersed in them and experiencing revelations from them. Only then can he improve quickly. Not to mention 2 days. He can spend half a month not eating or drinking with that body of his without a problem. The deal has been struck anyway. You guys will wait 3 days for him. If he doesn't come to after 3 days, you guys can just leave without him. Sun Wen stopped Bei Bei irritably. From his perspective, Huo Yuao was like a qualified soul engineer in his current state. He was more than eager for Huo Yuao to continue being in such a state. Bei Bei couldn't convince Sun Wen, so he had no choice but to allow He to continue sending food and water to Huo Yuao. But Huo Yuao paid no attention to all that. His eyes didn't shift away from those blueprints. He once observed Huo Yuao closely for a little while, as he was afraid that Huo Yuao was in a daze from scrutinizing those blueprints, but he quickly realized that Huo Yuao was completely fine. The reason was because Huo Yuao's expression was changing throughout the process. Sometimes he would frown, and sometimes he would express pleasant joy. There was a time when Huo Yuao even slammed the table with his hand, which startled He. It was evident that Huo Yuao was just immersed in his own research, and there was nothing wrong with him. 2 days had gone by while Huo Yuao was still like that. The third day quickly arrived. Bei Bei had already made all the necessary arrangements for the Tang Sect. Shen Liner and Chen Duo, their 2 deans, had agreed to his request to take care of the Tang Sect, and they told Bei Bei to complete his task assuredly. However, Elder Sun had also given them a time limit. Everyone had to come back within 1 month, whether or not they could rescue Tanya. The Tang Sect needed them after all, and the Tang Sect's development was related to their resistance against the Sun Moon Empire in the future. The third day is coming, and little junior brother seems like he won't be coming with us. Bei Bei said helplessly to Shu Sanqi. They were about to depart the next day, so they made some final preparations. Shu Sanqi pulled a long face and replied, I wonder why Teacher Sun is so determined this time. I'm honestly not confident at all without little junior brother around. I didn't feel that way last time, and he has always been the one planning strategies and whatnot. We're about to go onto the battlefield by ourselves this time, and I am a little lost about where to start. Bei Bei couldn't help but laugh. Seems like we have to train a little. Otherwise, won't we become laughing stocks? Shu Sanqi snapped. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Who will be the main control type soul master without you, Al? You or me? Or who else? Not even Sister Zien is going, and Zien can still be considered a half-control type soul master. Seems like Xia has to take this role, but her control only works within a small area of effect, and when the battle is spread out over a larger area, she probably can't keep everything under control. Bei Bei, why don't we look for Teacher Sun to convince him to let Yuao go this time? He'll learn properly when he gets back. Bei Bei sighed and said, I know how important little junior brother is. However, Teacher Sun's attitude is very resolute. You know that the Tang Sect couldn't have developed so quickly in recent months and years without him, and we couldn't have had so much support from the academy. Teacher Sun doesn't typically ask anything of us, so I can't reject his request this time when he is so determined. Furthermore, he usually has a casual personality, but he's very stubborn when he's decided on something. I'll only infuriate him if I look for him again. Forget it, let's just work hard by ourselves. I don't think we'll have too much trouble rescuing Xiaoyu with Elder Song and Ding Yan around. I guess that's all we can do. Shu Sanqi replied exasperatedly. All right, I'm going back. Shu Sanqi stood up as he spoke, when a voice suddenly came from outside. Done. He's done. Both Shu Sanqi and Bei Bei were momentarily stunned as He charged in from outside with an excited look on his face. What's done? Shu Sanqi asked confusedly. He said excitedly, little junior brother is done going through the blueprints, and he's starting to forge the soul tool. He's asked me to look for Teacher Sun. I'm here to relay this good news before calling him. Shu Sanqi shook his head helplessly and said, are you all right, second senior brother? Are you saying that he will succeed after he's done going through the blueprints? Won't that make becoming a Class 8 soul engineer too easy? You can go look for Teacher Sun. Yes. He might not succeed at forging the soul tool even though he's done with the blueprints. He forced a laugh as he slapped his forehead. I just watched little junior brother stare at blueprints for 3 days, and my thoughts went sideways that he would definitely succeed when I saw that he was finally getting down to crafting it. Bei Bei smiled and said, there's nothing sideways about that. Little junior brother might actually succeed. Isn't he very adept at creating miracles? He nodded and said, I also think there's hope. That's because soul engineers have to understand a soul tool's principles before forging it, and they have to figure out a soul tool's blueprint such as this one that they've never seen before. Little junior brother has been going through them for almost 3 days, and he's finally getting to work. Perhaps he's doing that because he's out of time, or perhaps he has really understood them. I'm leaning towards the latter, as little junior brother never does things without thinking. Therefore, he will only have a chance at forging the soul tool if he can understand those blueprints. Even if he isn't yet a soul Douluo, he has twin martial souls, so his soul power is stronger than most other soul masters at the same rank. Maybe he can really do it, and his spiritual power is just so formidable. All right, I'm going to look for Teacher Sun, and you guys can go take a look if you're interested. Let's cheer little junior brother on together, and hope that he'll succeed. He ran out excitedly after his speech to notify Sun Wen. Bei Bei and Shu Sanqi exchanged a look, and they almost uttered at the same time. Let's go. Huo Yuao was done with the blueprints, but he didn't start forging immediately. Instead, he drank some water, but didn't eat anything as he sat down with his legs crossed while he began to meditate. Huo Yuao had spent almost 3 days on these blueprints, and he had consumed a lot of energy doing that. How could he craft a Class 8 soul tool without his energy in perfect condition? This was his first attempt. Huo Yuao was still meditating when Sun Wen, Bei Bei, Shu Sanqi, and He slunk into the silent room, and he seemed to be deep in meditation. Everyone besides Sun Wen was a little stunned when they knew what he was like. Sun Wen nodded instead and said, that's good. He still knows that he should regain his energy before making this attempt. Seems like he's very confident. Let's wait and see. Waiting around was typically very torturous. At least, that was the case for most people, but Huo Yuao quickly gave them a reason to remove that torturous feeling, because something was happening to his body. Huo Yuao only had faint soul power undulations before, but as time continued to pass, those undulations started to change. Furthermore, those changes were extremely weird. Faint gold colors began to emanate from inside his body. That was very normal for most people, as they would think that it was just his soul power presented externally. Most people could reach this state when they were unbridled and they didn't need anyone to protect them. However, Huo Yuao's aura was just so dominant, a terrifying aura that resembled that of an ancient awakening beast rippled from his body as the faint golden light continued to flow out in waves. Everyone inside the silent room, including Shu Wen, began to feel a little stifled, and found it difficult to breathe. Is he using imitation when he's meditating? Sun Wen asked snappily. I don't think so. Bei Bei's expression became solemn. He was well aware of Huo Yuao's abilities, and they were inside the Tang Sect. How could he be using soul skills when he was meditating? But what was going on with that golden light that was emanating from his body? Huo Yuao quickly gave his answer as fine. Compact scales began to appear on his skin. These scales were diamond-shaped, and even appeared three-dimensional, as the center of every scale protruded upwards. Under such circumstances, there were many reflections off the surface of these scales, and that made the faint golden light radiating from his body even more brilliant and eye-catching. Huo Yuao's formidable aura continued to rise, and every instance gave everyone a kind of frightening pressure. If we hadn't been so used to spending so much time with this fellow, we'd probably think he's a savage beast in human form. Shu Sanqi said admiringly. It didn't take long before Huo Yuao's aura that resembled a savage beast finally stabilized. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief at the same time. At least they didn't have to channel soul power to resist that tremendous pressure, but their eyes quickly widened, because a strange black whirlpool gradually appeared in the middle of Huo Yuao's eyebrows. Everyone felt their spiritual seas quiver vigorously when that whirlpool appeared, and formidable spiritual power was immediately unleashed from within it like a hurricane. Huo Yuao's spiritual power was released for just an instant, but that instant sent everyone stumbling backwards uncontrollably. His spiritual power was released and withdrawn in a single instant, but it was released again in the next moment. I can't handle it anymore. I'll step out for a little while. Shu Sanqi turned and left the silent room with a stifled look on his face. Bei Bei and the others also walked out with strange expressions on their faces. Huo Yuao's spiritual power was too strange, and under such circumstances, they were continuously sustaining spiritual shocks. That was more painful than being in a fight, because they couldn't fight against it either, as resisting would likely create shocks to Huo Yuao. The only person who didn't leave was Teacher Sun, who was already a class 9 soul engineer. Sun Wen stared at Huo Yuao with widened eyes, and his mouth hung slightly hiccupy as a look of disbelief filled his eyes. What is that whirlpool? The others in the Tang Sect didn't know, and that was because they weren't at that level yet. But Sun Wen was. Shrek Academy had wanted to express their gratitude for his contributions to the Soul Tool department, and several transcendent Douluo had personally helped him from his soul core. Even though his foundations weren't very secure, as he barely became a titled Douluo, and he could be stuck at rank 91 for his entire life. Sun Wen could probably spend his entire lifetime without becoming a titled Douluo otherwise with his foundations. If he couldn't do that, he couldn't become a class 9 soul engineer. He knew how difficult it was to form a soul core because he had done it himself. Back then, he felt as if he had died, and he felt very deeply about how powerful and frightening a soul core was. But what was he looking at now? The center of Huo Yuao's eyebrows was filled with formidable spiritual power undulations, and it seemed to release and withdraw spiritual power along with his breathing. It seemed like a soul core, but how's that possible? He's just a soul sage, so how can he have a soul core? It was very difficult for me to form my own soul core when I was breaking through to become a titled Douluo. Wouldn't he have a much harder time forming a soul core as a soul sage? But judging from the spiritual undulations that are coming from the center of his eyebrows, that is a soul core. God. Will this fella give me a very pleasant surprise? No, that's not possible. Even if his spiritual power is strong enough, he can't possibly finish forging a class 8 soul tool like this one. Forging soul tools requires more than just powerful soul power. A soul engineer also needs powerful soul power to support him. Otherwise, the soul engineer will find it very difficult to complete everything in one go. He also has to be able to use a class 8 soul tool perfectly in our deal, and a decomposition cannon expends a lot of soul power. Sun Wen gradually calmed down as his thoughts stopped there. However, when he felt Huo Yuao's spiritual undulations and felt his own undulations from his soul core, he still discovered some differences. At least, what made him more gratified was that Huo Yuao's thing that was similar to a soul core couldn't compare to his own soul core in terms of overall strength. Then that is definitely not a soul core. Yes, doesn't he have that eye of destiny? Maybe this is his eye of destiny's unique appearance. Sun Wen continued to console himself. He had never heard of a titled Douluo who could establish a soul core between his eyebrows. Sun Wen turned and left as well. Staying in the silent room and continuously resisting Huo Yuao's sporadically appearing spiritual power wasn't comfortable at all. Everyone was still outside when he left the room. Huo Yuao was still meditating, so they naturally stayed back to protect their junior brother. Teacher Sun, don't you think Yuao's aura is a little strange? Why do I not remember him having such formidable spiritual power before? Can it be that he has run into another miracle in the time he's spent outside? Shu Sanqi asked curiously. Hikaiju was deep in thought as he nodded and said, yes, I don't remember his spiritual power being that powerful. Furthermore, his soul power seems to have changed. I have no idea where the aura that resembles a savage beast comes from, and the golden light radiating from his body doesn't seem to be coming from his soul power. It goes from in to out, and I don't know what's going on. Feels like he himself has turned golden. Sun Wen shook his head and said, I'm a soul engineer, not a soul master. You have to bring these questions to the titled Douluo in Shrek Academy. Anyway, I don't care what he's doing, and he's not leaving unless he can forge a class 8 soul tool. Bei Bei and Shu Sanqi exchanged a helpless look. They still wanted to try to convince Sun Wen, but it seemed like they should dispel that thought to prevent the bitterness of being rejected. Huo Yuao meditated for a shorter time than everyone imagined he would. 2 hours later, the soul power undulations from inside the room gradually receded, and a gentle hum that resembled a dragon's roar could be heard. This fellow. If he's done, then he's done. Why is he calling out? Shu Sanqi laughed as he chided, and he was the first back inside the silent room. However, he realized something was wrong once he came back, and that was because Huo Yuao was still sitting there with his legs crossed and his mouth closed. The dragon hum from his body was still resonating, but that sound seemed to come from his chest. The dragon hum was faint, and it seemed to form a feedback loop with his soul power as it resonated. What's happening? Shu Sanqi turned around and glanced at Bei Bei. Bei Bei had a dragon-type martial soul, and if he didn't know, Bei Bei should know. However, Bei Bei's expression showed the same astonishment. It was evident that he couldn't understand anything that was happening with Huo Yuao. Huo Yuao was startled as he gradually opened his eyes. His senior brothers and sisters were all here, and even Ji Juoken, the sword maniac, was here. Ji Juoken almost wasn't in time, but Jingxian immediately ran to call him when she witnessed the strange things happening to Huo Yuao. Ji Juoken was very interested in and curious about any kind of special circumstances, especially when they were happening to Huo Yuao. Therefore, he hurried over as quickly as possible, but he couldn't understand anything that was happening to him. You're all here, eldest senior brother. Huo Yuao sprang to his feet. Huo Yuao was completely reinvigorated, and he was in his peak condition after more than 2 hours of meditation. At his current cultivation rank, not eating for a few days wasn't a big deal. Furthermore, he possessed immense energy from the manifold mysterious ice essence, and that was enough to sustain his energy expenditure. Even if he didn't meditate, his soul power would be continuously rising, as his spiritual soul core's greatest benefit was that it helped the soul master cultivate in every instant. Sun Wen took a few steps forward and came before Huo Yuao. All right, there's not much time left, and nighttime has befallen us. If you haven't forged the decomposition cannon before daybreak, then you will stay here with me. Even though he suspected that Huo Yuao already had his own soul core, now wasn't the time to ask him. Sun Wen had to wait for him to stay back before asking him. From his perspective, Huo Yuao couldn't possibly forge a class 8 soul tool no matter how prodigious he was. Huo Yuao nodded and said, you're very cruel, Teacher Sun. You didn't have to give me such a complicated one even if you want me to forge a class 8 soul tool. This soul tool breaches knowledge about space, and you would have stumped me if I hadn't gained some understanding of spatial power in recent weeks. What? You understand something about spatial power? Sun Wen's expression was full of disregard. Do you know what spatial power is? That's something that only titled Douluo or stronger individuals are worthy of studying. You little rascal, hurry up if you're going to it, and stop delaying. I will be watching from the beginning to the end so nobody can help you cheat. Huo Yuao chuckled and said, I don't need to cheat. Even though I'm not that confident, I'm still going to try. Let me warm up. He walked behind the working platform as he spoke. Huo Yuao's expression immediately calmed down as he entered the area around the working platform, and even his aura seemed to become warm and calm. Sun Wen was very satisfied about that point. Even though his prized student hadn't been conducting any research into soul tools or forging them in recent months, he didn't throw away too much regarding forging soul tools. At the very least, Huo Yuao's theory and concepts were still sound. Huo Yuao was just standing there quietly, and he was silent for about 30 seconds as he adjusted his breathing, heart rate, soul power undulations, and even his spiritual power. He allowed every inch of his aura to enter a certain rhythm. Sun Wen still had a scornful look on his face in the beginning, but his expression quickly gave way to one of surprise, and that was because Huo Yuao's current state was too similar to that of a very powerful soul engineer. Thanks so much for watching this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Also leave a comment down below with suggestions on what novels to read.